Hello, okay, so DaVinci Resolve 21 just dropped a few weeks ago, and Blackmagic basically just said, let's add a bunch of AI tools and see what works. Some of them are genuinely going to change how you edit, and some of them are just more for gimmicky, fun kind of stuff. Let's jump straight into number 7, the AI Face Reshaper. This one literally lets you warp someone's facial features, a bigger nose, wider jaw, weird eye. The reason it's number 7 is because it's not something you're likely to use. People don't want their face shapes changed. So if you're using it for comedy or a short film, it makes sense. But if you're doing real life scenarios or corporate work, like I'm sure most of us are, not going to really use this one that much. So I'm going to quickly show you how this works. I'm in the color page, and I have a couple of clips here that I'm going to test it on for you. If you come over to the effects on the side, you can just click here to make sure it's turned on. And then type in reshape and you'll get an effect called Face Reshaper, and you just drag it onto your clip. If you just click here on this dot, you'll be able to see all the keyframes it's put on your footage. And before you do anything, you just want to track forwards and backwards so it tracks the entire clip. Otherwise, you're just going to be changing that point in space and it won't work properly. Great. And then we can turn off the show overlay, and then we can go down to the face shape and start making adjustments. So let's give her a big head, make it wider. This is purely for educational purposes. So as you can see, I made loads of changes and it's following the footage. I did go a little bit drastically on this one, so it isn't perfect. But if you wanted to make minor tweaks as well, let's just reset all of this. So if you wanted to make minor tweaks, it can be a little bit more realistic. So let's say someone had their eyes open a little bit too much, but you wanted them to be more squinting and look a little bit angrier. You can also tilt the eyebrows in a little bit. So you go just a before and after. She's happy. Now she looks a little bit more sad, angry, and this looks a little bit more natural than the other one did. And it doesn't warp as much. So unless you knew what she actually looked like, you'd just think she was a very unique looking person. And let's just show on a little bit more of a moving handheld camera shot, just to see if it would work on some real footage that you might have. So we'll put the face shape on. It's going to detect faces in frame, and then you can click on which face you want to be adjusting. So obviously I want to be adjusting this one. Same process again, track forwards and backwards. And again, just make the adjustments that you want. Now, one use case this could be for is if you used a fisheye lens and realized everyone was looking weird, you could use this to adjust the width as well, and just to make them look a little bit normal. So it does have some practical effects, because I have had footage given to me by people and they've used a fisheye and they look absolutely distorted. So it can be useful. Just look at this before and after. Like, say I wanted to make these subtle tweaks because of a camera lens. He still looks like a normal person, and it plays, and you cannot tell there's been any adjustments made. There's the before, and there's the after. Very subtle. So it could be useful, but again, people don't want to be changed. So that's why it's number 7. The next one we have is the AI Face Age Transformer. So this is another gimmicky one that you're probably not going to use very often, but it is fun, and again, you could use it in short films and flashback scenes. It can also work if a client asks you to soften them a bit. I found it does soften them if you use it very subtly. So let's just take a look at how that works. So we'll start on an older person just to see how it looks, because I think it's worse on older people and better on middle-aged people. So you drag the AI Face Age Transformer onto your node. So first thing you do is detect the faces in the frame. Then we're going to track her face forwards and backwards, and then just hide the overlay. And then look, if you just de-age it by a few years, it's not super noticeable. It does give a nice little softening effect to her face. It makes her look a couple of years younger. I wouldn't say 14 years younger like it says. You can go crazy to the extreme. Like I said, doesn't really work on old people's faces because they have a lot more features. It's trying to hide a lot more, so it tends to smoothen out wrinkles way too much. This is something that would haunt me in my nightmares. And you can make them a little bit older as well, which does look fine on old people. Realistically, she looks older and it's worked well. It does have a thing where it likes to make older people's eyes super red and creepy. Now let's try it on more of a younger aged person. So this one was probably about, let's say 35, 36. Detect the faces in frame, track forward and backwards. Okay, we'll just hide the overlay and de-age her a little bit. And again, when you're going younger, it just tends to soften them in this really weird way. So it's not like Marvel level quality. But if you take off a few years, it can just soften people up a little bit. It does look a little bit fake. And let's try going older. So 36, add on a few years, maybe bring her up to 46. So yeah, I think the older one does work a lot better. It's more subtle. and it's a nice little effect. But again, bump it up too much, their eyes go crazy red and they look terrifying. But the reason I chose this clip is because I wanted to show you, let's say she starts off normal, and by the time she hits the pillow, let's make her not crazy old, let's get rid of the red eyes. There we go, she's older. She's had a hard day. So you could use something like this in an ad for better sleep. Okay, let's take a look at this effect. Normal, aging, 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 older. That's actually not that bad. That's pretty cool. Next one, AI blemish removal. This is a nice to have because before I used to have to mask things, add a bunch of Gaussian blurs onto it and track, and it was just a lot of pain, and I used to give up and just tell people to accept it. So to do this, again, we're back in the color page and we're going to type in blemish and drag it onto our node, and then just bump up the strength to see how it changes. So just a quick before and after. Now for this, obviously it's removed a little bit too much because I don't want it to affect the markings up here. But thankfully, this is a still shot for me, so I can just add a mask and just choose where I want it to remove. And it was mainly on his lip area down here. And there we go, before and after. Another use case you might have for this is on close-up shots. Everyone has blemishes on the skin, we all do. But when you're doing short films or you're putting things out for a model photo shoot and stuff, you are probably going to have to remove blemishes. It's just the way the world is. I'm not saying I agree with it, but it is how it is. So I'm just going to test it out on this clip. I think that's a little bit too strong. And just a quick before and after. And it is just a really nice effect. It's not too noticeable. Again, it just looks like she has tiny blemishes now and not as big as they were. So it doesn't fully remove things like the older methods used to do it and make people look absolutely flawless. It still shows the blemishes a little bit, but it just neatens them up. So it is nicer for the viewers. Next one is the speech generator. So in the previous version of DaVinci Resolve, we did have this, but you also had to record a clip of you saying it so that it can match the cadence and then use their voice and kind of use it on top of what you've recorded. And it just didn't work very well. So we're going to test out the new version today. So I've got Tim here speaking.
But over time, we did notice something else potentially happening, which is when I saw Lauren recently, we noticed a little bit of spread.
And I exported a WAV file. You need a WAV file for this. I exported a WAV file of him speaking. Now I'm just going to go to Timeline, AI Tools, Speech Generator, Text Input, Voice Model, Custom Voice, and I'm going to load the WAV file. So I've got it set up here, Tim's voice, and generate. And then once it's generated, you have to cancel it for some reason. So let's just listen to his voice.
Started to cause a little bit of widening of the upper part.
And the AI voice.
But this is just to test if it sounds like something I would say, or if it still sounds fake and terrible, like an awful AI voice model. Injecting things, yes.
Yeah. You know, it's all right. For some reason, the audio likes to peak on the speech that it generates. So let's just try it on a clip of me as well. So I'll just come back to Timeline, AI Tools, Speech Generator. I'm going to load in my voice on this one. Obviously, you can hear my voice now. This is just to test if it sounds like something I would say or if it still sounds fake and terrible like an awful AI voice model. Injecting things, yes. See, it's just all overblown. Some bits of it are good and usable. It's not amazing. If you need to use it because you've missed out something, it'd be great to use. But personally, if you can afford it, I would recommend Fish Audio for copying people's voices. So for my number 3 pick instead is going to be the AI Ultrasharpen. So I've got some footage here that was recorded and given to me, but it was a little bit out of focus. I say a little bit, it is just out of focus, unfortunately. It can't be fixed completely, so I wouldn't use this for a high-end output. If it's going out on TV or to a cinema screen, then you probably wouldn't use it. But if you're using it for ads like I am, then it's more than capable. So I'm just going to drag the Ultrasharpen onto a new node and just sharpen it up by quite a lot. And it's just a before, it was really out of focus. After, still out of focus, but it does look a bit better. So for an extra bit, I'm just going to add a noise reduction on afterwards as well, just to soften it up after the sharpening. And let's just grab both of them. So that's before and after. It is a bit bad with the words, but as you can see, it is still better than it was before. So it's a handy tool. It's not going to completely save your footage, but if you messed up a little bit, you could still probably get away with it. And number 2 is the Cinefocus. So we had something like this before with the depth map, but now it's got a lot more controls involved in it. And this is basically what Apple does on your phone when you put it in cinematic mode, but you can now do it in post. And just to show you, I'm going to come over to Cinefocus, drag it on. I'm going to put the quality on better on this one. And then we're just going to choose where we want the focus. So we can see the focus distance. We want it to be on the faces and change the depth of field a little bit. So it's obviously getting the background. I like to have a no foreground blur because I don't want his hand coming out of focus as well, like it will do on this one. And then we'll just go over to the result to see what's happened and a quick before and after. So it's just adding nice depth to the image. But it is a bit iffy, especially around the sides of people's faces. So you can come over to the depth map and fix this however you want. If you adjust the map levels, you can choose where the limits are and then play around with the result. And that looks a little bit nicer. We still have some issues around her nose, for example. You can change the aperture size, the focus distance, the depth of field. Once you played around with it a bit, it can look quite nice. It works a lot better on still footage, I found, of people like sat at desks or something. So when you're recording interviews and talking heads and you didn't get enough of a background blur that you wanted to, just an example here, before and then after. On some other clips I've got it in, or here for example, this was shot as a short film for someone. I'll just turn it on and off. We can just now add the focus blur in post. Still better to do in your camera. It takes a lot of tweaking to get this looking right. When I've used this on some of the things that I've done, I could probably spend 10, 20, 30 minutes tweaking it to get it perfect. So it is a bit finicky, but it can save some of your shots and it can do an amazing job. Particularly, like I said, if you look at interview clips. Obviously this is too much bokeh, but just an example, it cuts this out really nicely. And because he's facing on camera, I don't have to deal with any highlights on his nose that are getting lost in there. And the last one, which is probably the best thing that they've finally added, is the Intellisearch option. So as an example, I'm in my corporate folder here. And let's say I want to be able to search by people's faces. I would highlight these clips, come over here to perform AI analysis in selected clips, and then I would just click on this and it would identify the faces, analyze for slate, which is if you're using a slate, you can use it for transcription. So it will transcribe your footage at the same time, and audio classification if you have different types of audio files. And then you would just click analyze. And once it's analyzed, if you come over to the search, now I have this new faces tab that's popped up and I can show the face gallery, and it has analyzed everyone's faces that it's found in these clips. So if I click on this guy, now I know which footage he has appeared in all of the shots that I have. And if I click segments, then it's just going to drag the segments that he's in so I can easily cut it out. And again, I know I interviewed this guy for Virtual Trader. So if I have full clips and I click on him, I can see that he was in this video. But if I just want the segments that he was on, then I click it. Look, there he is in the background. And it's dragging all the parts where he was involved in the interview process into these segment clips. This is really handy when you have a huge catalog of footage to work from and you want to find certain people in certain areas or from certain interviews that you did or documentaries. But that's not all it does. It also analyzes for items that you can find or animals and things like that. So if you just click on faces to turn the face search off, and then let's come in here and type fox and then segments, it has taken all the segments from my footage where there was foxes in them. Okay, and I also know I had a guitar in certain things that I had as well. So let's just find out all the times that someone has used a guitar. Again, it's got the segment. Amazing. Amazing. What about drums? Because I know that one of the guys was playing the drums at some point as well. And again, it's picked out the drums. And for some reason, it's also picked out the bird playing with this, thinking it's a drum. It is not a drum. But still, this is so much better than what we had before. So there you go. Hope it helps.